I never imagined that the happiest day of my cousin's life would become the day I was humiliated in front of hundreds of guests and rescued by someone I never expected. My name is Zainab. I come from a modest Nigerian family in Enugu, where weddings are not just celebrations, they are full-blown events that carry weight, tradition, and reputation. So when my cousin Amara got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, all eyes were on her. She was marrying into money. Not just any money, but into the Ejoku family, owners of one of the largest construction empires in West Africa. Amara had always been the shining star. She was the pretty one, the confident one, the one who was meant for big things. I was the orphaned, quiet one who lived with her family after my parents passed away. I stayed in the background. That was my place. Until the wedding. Until everything changed. Preparations for the wedding began 6 months in advance. I was honored when Amara asked me to be one of her bridesmaids. We laughed over fabric choices and measured our waists together. For the first time, I felt seen, not just as the poor cousin, but as part of the celebration. But things started shifting the moment Amara's soon-to-be in-laws entered the picture. Her fiancé, Chaik, was charming and respectful, but his mother, she was something else. Lady Ifeoma Ejoku carried herself like royalty. The kind of woman whose eyebrows alone could make you question your whole outfit. And then there was Tob, Chaik's elder brother. The infamous billionaire. Stoic. Intense. Private. Rumor had it that he'd lost his wife in a car accident 2 years ago and had since become a ghost. He rarely spoke. Didn't smile. But there was something magnetic about him. He carried sadness like a king wearing grief as a crown. The tension began 2 weeks before the wedding. I'd been fitted for my bridesmaid dress, a soft lilac gown that hugged the waist and fell elegantly down. I loved it. It made me feel beautiful. That same day, I overheard Amara and her friends laughing in the room. They didn't know I was near the doorway. She actually thinks she belongs in our bridal pictures, one said. She looks like a housemaid in that dress. Amara responded, laughing. We only added her out of pity. I mean, who invites an orphan to a billionaire's wedding? The words sliced through me. I stood frozen, my hands trembling as my smile crumbled. Later that evening, Amara called me aside, suddenly cold. Zainab, I've been thinking. Maybe it's best if you don't walk with the bridesmaids. The coordination is off. You'll still attend the wedding, of course. But you don't have to wear the dress. My voice caught in my throat. But, why? She didn't even look up. Don't take it personal. It's a big day. I can't have anything ruining the aesthetic. So just like that, I was kicked out of the bridal party. After months of excitement, after spending money I barely had on fabric and shoes and hair. They pushed me aside like trash. I went home that night and cried until my pillow was soaked. The wedding day arrived. The garden venue was breathtaking, white orchids, gold-trimmed chairs, live violins. I stood alone, far behind the decorated altar, wearing a plain gown borrowed from my church friend. I hadn't told anyone what happened. I was too ashamed. As the ceremony began, people were smiling, clapping, taking pictures. Amara was glowing in her expensive lace dress, waving like a queen. But I couldn't even look at her. Then I felt it, a presence beside me. I turned and nearly jumped. Tob Ejoku. He stood silently, dressed in a deep blue agbada that shimmered slightly in the sunlight. His eyes weren't on the ceremony. They were on me. I noticed you weren't up there with the others, he said, voice low. I forced a small smile. I guess I didn't match the aesthetic. His brow furrowed. Is that what they told you? I nodded. He said nothing for a while, then offered me a bottle of water from his side. You look more dignified standing here than all of them combined up there. I laughed quietly. You don't even know me. He looked at me then, really looked at me. You stood by them even when they didn't see you. That says enough. It was such a small moment. But it felt massive. Throughout the reception, he stayed near me. He was different from what people said. Gentle. Observant. Honest. While the crowd danced and screamed around the couple, he asked me about my dreams, my studies, and my writing. He listened. Really listened. Later that night, after the festivities, I was packing my things to leave when someone knocked at the guest house door. It was a courier. A note in elegant handwriting. Sometimes, the ones cast aside carry more grace than those in the spotlight. Let them mock the shadows. That's where diamonds are formed. Taube. Inside the envelope. A small silver bracelet with the Ejoku insignia. I didn't expect to ever hear from Taube again. But that night awakened something in both of us. And what followed changed everything. Because when a billionaire extends his hand, not out of pity, but recognition, the world watches. And in my case, so did Amara. She didn't like what she saw. I met Amara during my final year at the University of Ibadan. She was radiant, with laughter that filled the room and intelligence that challenged me in the best way. Our love blossomed quickly, and soon after graduation, we got married in a modest ceremony. Her family wasn't wealthy, but they had a house her father was still paying off, a 3-bedroom bungalow in Aja, Lagos. When Amara's father, Baba Tand, lost his job due to health issues, I stepped in. I had just landed a decent position in a telecommunications firm. It felt natural to offer support. They needed help with the mortgage, and I didn't hesitate. For the first 2 years, I transferred 120,000 Nigerian nairas monthly to the bank. By year 3, I increased it to 150,000 Nigerian nairas as interest rates went up. Baba Tand would always smile and say, "You're a true son, Emeka." But over time, the warmth faded. I started noticing how I was subtly excluded. Discussions about house repairs were done without me. Decisions about who gets which room, or even what color to paint the sitting room, were made in my absence. My in-laws had a strange way of pretending the house was theirs and I was, well, just passing through. At family events, they introduced me as Amara's husband, not our son-in-law or the man who saved our home. Little things. But they add up. The real blow came in year 5. We were all sitting at the table, Amara, her parents, her 2 siblings, and me. Her younger brother, Colonel, brought up some nonsense about needing to turn my study into a gaming room. I laughed and said, "My study stays." That's when Mama Tand muttered under her breath, but loud enough, "This is our house, not his. He's just a guest." Amara didn't say a word. Not even one. Something died in me that day. But I smiled. I always smiled. I kept paying, but I also started preparing. I quietly kept records of every transaction. Bank statements. Receipts. I even asked the mortgage bank to send me copies of payment confirmations directly. I made some discreet inquiries at the land registry and discovered something shocking. The house deed was still under her father's name, but the mortgage had been refinanced in my name 4 years ago due to his poor credit score. Which meant I wasn't just paying for the house. I legally owned it. Amara didn't know. Her parents didn't know. Not yet. So I waited. Patiently. In those final 2 years, I played the perfect in-law. I bought groceries, paid the electric bills, even gave Colonel money to start a photography business. They took. They smiled. But they never gave. Then came my moment. It was a rainy Tuesday morning when I walked into the sitting room with an envelope in hand. Everyone was present. I placed it gently on the center table. "What's this?" Baba turned asked. "Keys," I said calmly. "To my house." Confused, they opened the envelope. Inside were the title deed copies, legal documents, and payment proofs, all bearing my name. Silence. And then I said, voice steady. "For 8 years, I was just a guest in this house. But legally, this guest is the landlord." Mama Tan's mouth opened, then closed. Amara looked like she'd seen a ghost. No one spoke. "I'm not kicking anyone out," I continued, "but things will change. Starting today." I turned and walked to my car, heart pounding, but not from fear. From freedom. They thought I was a fool. But I was just patient. The aftermath was exactly what I expected. Whispers behind closed doors turned into arguments in open rooms. Amara barely spoke to me for 3 days, visibly torn between loyalty to her family and the hard truth she never saw coming. Baba tried to appeal to my emotions, asking me to transfer the deed back for family unity. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. I told them, "For years, I watched you all ignore my voice in this house, despite the fact that I was the one keeping the roof above our heads. I didn't ask for praise. Just dignity." Amara finally sat with me one evening, tears in her eyes. "I didn't know they treated you like that. I should have spoken up." "I didn't need you to protect me, Amara," I said gently, "I needed you to stand with me." We agreed to attend counseling one-on-one and as a couple. I made it clear that I wasn't moving anyone out. But I was setting boundaries. Colonel was told to get a job if he wanted to stay. The living room renovation halted until we discussed it together. Respect. Non-negotiable. Mama avoided me for weeks. But slowly, the house dynamics began to shift. Not because I yelled or punished, but because I owned my worth. And when they saw the strength in my calm, they had no choice but to adapt. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw them out. I just reminded them, gently but firmly, the guest now has the keys. And he's not leaving. 3 months after the envelope moment, the air in the house felt different. There was less shouting, fewer side eyes. Respect didn't bloom overnight, but it began to root itself slowly, like a long-awaited rain over dry earth. One Sunday morning, as I sat reading in the now-respected study, Colonel knocked and entered with a hesitant smile. "I got a job. A real one. With a logistics company," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Just thought you should know." I nodded. "That's good, Colonel. I'm proud of you." He lingered for a second longer before quietly leaving. No dramatics, no long speeches. But in that silence, something unspoken passed between us, a truce. Amara's transformation was even more profound. Counseling opened her eyes to the subtle dismissal she had allowed for years. For the first time, we were working as a team, not as a man paying for his wife's family, but as a couple building their own identity. She apologized not with grand words, but small, consistent actions, standing up for me during family decisions, defending our privacy, prioritizing our marriage. One evening, while we shared a quiet dinner in the kitchen, she looked up and asked, "Do you regret staying?" I paused, looked around, and smiled. "No. Because sometimes, the only way to change a system is to live in it long enough to own it. Kindness does not mean weakness. Patience is not permission. And being silent doesn't mean you have no power, it means you're saving it for the right moment." I didn't buy that house to be a hero. I did it for love, for family. But when that love was taken for granted, I didn't lash out, I prepared. Today, I still live with my in-laws. Not because I have to, but because I chose to. The house is mine, but more importantly, so is my dignity. Let them call me a guest if they like. But now even the walls know. The guest became the man of the house, and he did it with grace, not vengeance.